3 more will die, and there is nothing you can do to save them. You must accept that this is beyond your control. But by the time you realize you made all of this possible, it'll be the last sane thought in your head.
The legend of Sherlock Holmes has been portrayed for decades in both film and TV, and in one of the more recent iterations of the character back in 2009, it was down to Robert Downey Jr. to bring forth the detective once more into the limelight. And already in this review I've said something that I'm sure piqued not just my interest for the film, and it's that in the inspired casting of the main man himself, Robert Downey Jr. Just looking at him you could think, yeah, I can see him as Sherlock Holmes. And he is no questions asked the highlight of the film. He exudes the charm and charisma found within the character. He is wildly eccentric, demonstrates his deductive specialties on numerous occasions, and when it comes to a fist fight, he proves to us that in this version he is not one to be taken lightly. And those slow down sections were personally some of my utmost favourites. The way he calculated every strike and then systematically took apart his opponent was riveting. Seeing him enter his thought process, whether it's in a fight or at a crime scene, we get to see his brilliant mind go through its works. And it really was quite outstanding to see. But it's a fair bet to say our dear detective would never get as far as he does without his loyal companion and partner, Dr. Watson. Now, I can't say I'm a huge admirer of Jude Law. I don't dislike him, I'm just not his biggest fan in the world. But in this setting and with this character, it melds together wonderfully for him. Like Robert Downey Jr. with Holmes, he seems to be an exact match for his character, and his work here, at least in my opinion, is definitely his best. Now, the film begins with Holmes and Watson successfully tracking down and capturing Lord Blackwood, a black magic practitioner who was cut short in the middle of one of his sacrifices. He claims that a greater power is within him, and that there will be 3 more unpreventable deaths that Holmes can do nothing about. Holmes ignores him at first, of course, citing that Blackwood and his devious plans had come to an end. He was locked up in his cell after all. Then later, after being found guilty of murder, he was hung for his crimes and pronounced dead at the scene. However, that wasn't the end of it. A few days later, following on from those events, a police constable knocks at Holmes's door to inform him that Blackwood had risen from the grave. It turns out his threats should have been taken more seriously, and so what followed was Holmes and Watson, even to the latter half's reluctance, rejoining the case, retracing their steps, and trying to figure out what was going on. Their investigation took them all over the streets of London, and its old school style couldn't have looked better. And don't think just because Holmes and Watson were partners there wouldn't be anyone else trying to meddle with the case. Irene Adler, played by Rachel McAdams, was part love interest, part adversary and part ally. But in the end we learnt that even she too was having her strings pulled by the true master behind the curtain of Professor Moriarty. His shadowy figure is barely even seen at all in this movie. We know he's smart as Holmes, and we damn sure know that he is dangerous. Now all we have to do is wait for the second film to see whose face it is that is hidden in the shadows. Moriarty doesn't take the main role as the villain for now. Lord Blackwood serves to be the first nemesis in this franchise iteration. I mean, he's no Moriarty in terms of a true adversary or equal, but his plot to threaten the whole of England was a great way to kickstart this franchise. And whether Holmes is working with the bumbling Inspector Lestrade in Scotland Yard, trying to subtly sabotage Watson's relationship with Mary, or he's right in the thick of it trying to get out of a tricky situation, the film is a joy to watch, and one that I would recommend without a second thought. My overall verdict for 2009's Sherlock Holmes is an 8 out of 10. It is 2 hours of pure entertainment. There was never a dull moment. The chemistry between the two leads is instantaneous and helps elevate the film on every level. Their bickering and banter is hilarious, and time after time again, Watson kept getting continuously dragged along with Holmes and whatever other trouble he would find himself in. You could tell Watson doesn't want to completely leave his doctor's role behind, but seeing Holmes try to sway him, even though he was obviously aware of it, made their interactions all that more enjoyable. And again, that London setting, gorgeous. Its rich visuals and old school style is beautifully created, and whether the duo were in a shipyard, a factory or in jail, you could tell every scene had so much work put into it. And when you have Hans Zimmer doing your score for you, it can never hurt having an extra touch of class. Now, this version of Holmes is certainly more action-oriented than many of the other iterations. Is that a bad thing? Well, I suppose it depends on your perspective, I guess. I really enjoyed the film's action sequences and felt that on terms of balancing the fighting with the investigation scenes, it was done well, at least for my tastes. I suppose in a way saying that, you could see this Sherlock Holmes as more of a hero type than a crime solver, and yeah, I suppose that is true to an extent. I don't personally see it that way, and even if you do, there isn't exactly anything wrong with that, because really here, this Holmes proves to us that he isn't just brains, but that he is brawn as well. I've already spoken of how fond I am of the slow down fighting scenes, and that does remain the case. They were top notch, but in terms of other impressive moments that were up there was the quick thinking trap that Irene was caught in. Holmes was forced to use his wits on short notice, and that all ended with Blackwood laying a trap for all three of his pursuers. At the end of the day though, this story will play second fiddle to what comes next. Holmes, even if unaware of it now, was constantly followed by the presence of Professor Moriarty. And next up for my review of the sequel, we get to see him step away from the shadows and right onto the main stage. I hope you can check it out. So what did you guys think of this adaptation of Sherlock Holmes? Did you enjoy both Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law's performances in their respective roles? And did you like this more action-oriented take on the famous detective? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the review. And I'll see you on the next one.
And we'll bounce in 3, 2, 1.